following is a presentation of the Colonial Radio Theatre on Brilliance Audio.
The Colonial Radio Theatre on the Air presents Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, starring Jerry Robbins as Dr. Henry Jekyll, J.T. Turner as Mr. Utterson, and James Tallack as Dr. Hasty Lanyon, with Dennis Cordell as Richard Enfield, and Joseph Zamparelli as Poole. The executive producer is Mark Vanderberg, dramatised for radio by Gareth Tilley from the novel by Robert Louis Stevenson. Music by Tom Stitzer, produced by M.J. Cogburn, and directed by Jerry Robbins.
Apples, apples, get your lovely fresh apples. Apples freshly picked today. Would you like an apple, Governor?
No, not today, thank you.
Go on, sir. Have a heart. I've hardly sold a thing all day.
And just how much are they, these apples of yours?
A halfpenny, sir. I could do you a dozen if you'd like.
I think 2 will be quite sufficient, thank you.
There you are, sir. 2 rosy red apples.
Thank you. And keep the change.
Oh, thank you, sir. And what about your friend? Would you like some apples, mister?
I think my cousin has bought enough for the pair of us, don't you?
Oh, but sir, you'll never taste sweeter, I swear.
What, those mouldy old things?
But sir, they're fresh, I tell you.
Fresh last week, I'll wager. Now, good day to you, madam. You know, Utterson, I do enjoy these weekly strolls of ours.
Indeed, Enfield. For me, they are quite the high point. They give one time to think.
Shall we try down here?
Away from the bustle of the street sellers.
You read my thoughts exactly. Still, I fancy we cut an odd pair walking through the backwaters of London like this.
In what way?
Come now, surely our differences can't have escaped your notice.
Hardly. I'm nearly twice your age, for one.
Yes, that's true enough.
Though it's often said that age is a poor measure of a man's maturity.
I was thinking more of the differences in our character, Utterson.
Such as?
I think it's fair to say that you are more austere than I.
Do you think?
Indeed I do. Take this walking cane, for instance. Do you know how much I paid for it?
It is a very fine stick, Enfield. Is the gold trim real?
You know very well it is.
Let me hazard a guess, then. 6 shillings?
Hardly.
£1, then.
Let's just say more than a week's pay.
It's your money, cousin, and you've earned it.
Yet you would never consider such a purchase.
I've always believed in a degree of self-control, that's all.
And how many times have you told me you enjoy the theatre?
I may have mentioned it from time to time.
Then answer me this. When was the last time you took in a show?
Well, let me see now.
Not in all the years I've known you. That's how long.
No, I dare say you're right.
And there's another thing. One of your greatest pleasures is wine, is it not?
You know very well it is.
Yet, on the whole, you drink cheap gin.
Tell me, cousin, do people consider me a skinflint?
Hardly. That bag of apples you're holding shows your generosity.
She said they were very good apples.
She also said she hadn't sold any all day.
She looked like she needed the money.
It seems that you are only austere with yourself.
Ah, that is because I incline to Cain's heresy.
Meaning?
I'm content to let my brothers go to the devil in their own way.
Ah, I see. And that's why you pass no comment on my late nights around the card table?
I learnt long ago not to judge a man. That way you'll enjoy his company all the better.
If nothing else, it must help with your profession.
It's not the role of a lawyer to judge.
No.
One must only do what is right for one's client, that is all.
Perhaps you're right, though I fear it's more easily said than done.
We seem to have walked further than usual. Do you recognize this place?
Yes, I fear I do.
Fear? Why fear?
Did you ever see that small door over there?
No, I can't say I have.
Well, I recognize its tired and blistered face. In my mind, it's connected with a very odd story.
Indeed.
Addison, do you ever form close associations in your mind?
I'm not sure I follow.
You know, so that you might give a pet name to an object.
I'm afraid I haven't the imagination.
But you follow my meaning, don't you?
And this door of yours, does it have a particular name, then?
In my mind, it has. A dark and gloomy one.
Oh?
To me, it will always be known as Blackmail Door.
Blackmail? But why?
I'll always connect it to an incident that happened here not long ago.
Really?
I was coming home from someplace or other. It must have been around 3 a.m, I suppose, and my route took me through a part of town where there was nothing to see but street lamps. Can you imagine? Row after row of lamps, all lit up as if for a procession, with the streets as quiet as a church.
It's a long time since I was out so late.
Well, all at once I saw 2 figures ahead of me. One was a little man who was stumping along at a fair pace, and the other, a girl of 8 or 9, was running as hard as she could down the street, over there.
Yes, I see.
Then you can imagine what happened. Before I had the chance to call out, the pair had run into each other.
Get out of my way, you whelp.
Please, sir, it was only an accident.
An accident? I'll teach you about accidents.
But, sir, I was only running to fetch the doctor. My poor brother's been taken ill and...
Do you think I care about your brother when you might have cost me a new hat?
But, sir, I meant you no harm.
No harm, you say?
You there! Leave her alone!
Who the devil are you to tell me what to do?
A gentleman, which is more than I can say for you.
Oh, gentlemen, is it? Well, I thought it was gentlemanly to throw insults about.
Don't you try your bluff with me. I saw you hit the girl.
And did you see her run into me? On purpose! So she did!
I saw nothing of the sort. Here, are you all right?
Yes, sir. Just a few cuts and bruises, that's all.
And can you stand?
I think so.
Then let me help you up.
You brute! How dare you hit me, Mary?
I saw you too. We'll make you pay for treating a child like that.
Like the girl said, it was an accident, plain and simple.
So, you took it upon yourself to beat my daughter, did you?
Gentlemen! Look here, mister. Perhaps if you make some form of compensation to the girl.
Money, you mean?
That is what I had in mind.
And if I don't?
Then I'll let it be known from one end of London to the other what happened here tonight.
Well, we'll see you're the most hated man in London.
Yeah, now pay up, or else.
Well, if you choose to make capital out of an accident,
Only for the girl.
then I am naturally helpless. You better name your figure.
£100 and not a penny less.
100? For knocking over a bag of skin and bones like that.
What did you call my Mary?
I've a mind to give him a lesson here and now.
All right. I said I'd pay, didn't I?
Let's see the colour of your money, then.
You don't think I carry that much about, do you?
Then how much have you got?
Here's a tenner. I've nothing more.
What about the rest?
100 was what we agreed.
You heard the man. What about the other 90?
I'll have to get you a cheque.
Oh, a cheque, he says.
And just how will you do that?
This here is my house. Now, if you'll all just wait a moment.
Sir, if you mean to escape through this door, I'll fetch a policeman and...
You want the money, don't you?
For the girl, yes.
Then do as you're told. And wait here.
Please, sir, I meant no trouble.
No, I'll see you get your dues even if I have to pay you myself.
You've been very kind, sir.
Think nothing of it. I was only doing what any decent man would do.
Unlike that other fella. And did you see his face?
I don't want to think about it.
Quiet now, Mary. I'll be over soon enough.
Here it is. Now take your bleeding money.
What's this?
What do you think it is? It's a cheque for £90 made payable to the bearer. Now, if you don't mind...
No, wait a moment.
Well, what is it?
Just as I suspected, the name on this cheque is known to me.
So?
It's not yours, is it?
You'll find it cashable all the same.
And you expect us to believe that?
For a gentleman, you're not very trusting, are you?
After what you've done, there's no reason to be.
All right. To set your minds at rest, I will stay with you till the banks are open. And then we'll cash the cheque together. Now, I can hardly do more than that, can I?
As you say, Enfield, a quite remarkable affair.
But that wasn't the end of it.
No?
The child's father, along with our unpleasant friend, spent the rest of the night in my chambers.
You held him to his word, then?
Indeed I did. And the next day, we all went to the bank to present the check in person. I made it very clear that I had reason to believe it was a forgery.
The clerk rejected it, I suppose?
Not a bit of it. The check was genuine enough.
Oh dear, how embarrassing.
And to make matters worse, the account is held by a most distinguished gentleman. In fact, he's known hereabouts for his acts of charity and kindness.
Hence you call it blackmail door.
I see no other reason why he should give this creature a check. He must have some kind of hold over the poor unfortunate soul.
I suppose you're right.
I imagine he's an honest man paying for a misspent youth.
And did you ever find out who owns the property behind the door?
I've watched the place. A little. You can see for yourself that it's scarcely a house. In my experience, nobody goes in or out, save once in a very great while, the man of my adventure.
Yet the buildings in this court are so packed together, it's hard to say where one begins and another ends.
You mean the place could be connected through an interior door?
It's possible, isn't it? And there's one further point I want to ask.
Yes?
What was the name of the man who trampled the child?
Well, I see no harm in telling you. He's known hereabouts as Mr. Edward Hyde.
And what sort of man is he to look at, this Mr. Edward Hyde?
He is not easy to describe. It's like there's something wrong about his appearance.
Wrong? How so?
I can only describe it as something displeasing and downright detestable.
Yes, but in what way?
I never saw a man I so disliked, yet I scarcely know why. Yes, he gives a strong feeling of deformity, although I couldn't specify how. He has the air of an extraordinary-looking man, yet I cannot say why. You know, he's almost impossible to describe, although not for want of memory, for I can picture him well enough.
And you're sure he used a key?
Why do you ask?
The fact is, cousin, I do not ask the name on the check, because I know it already.
You do? I think you might have warned me.
Had I known the nature of your tale, I surely would have.
Then how did you know? I gave no hint.
Oh, through some business I've transacted.
As his lawyer.
I'd rather not say.
Perhaps you're right, Utterson. And let us make a bargain never to refer to the matter again.
Indeed, cousin, with all my heart. I will shake your hand on that. Must be here somewhere. I'm sure I placed it with his other papers. Ah! Here it is. And if in the case of my decease or my unexplained absence, for any period exceeding 3 calendar months, my friend and benefactor Edward Hyde should step into my shoes, without delay, and free from any burden or obligation, with all that I own passing directly to him. Signed, Dr. Henry Jekyll, M.D., D.C.L., L.L.D., F.R.S., etc., etc. This document was bad enough when I knew nothing about Edward Hyde. First, I thought it was madness, but now I begin to fear it's something criminal. But what to do is the question. If only I could speak to someone else about the matter. Yes, but who to ask? It must be someone discreet, someone who knows Jekyll well. I wonder. Yes, perhaps Dr. Lanyon could help.
Another glass of wine?
No, Lanyon, really, I couldn't.
Nonsense. I know how much you enjoy a good claret.
This must be one of the finest I've tasted.
Now we're comfortable once more. Perhaps you tell me, what's troubling you so?
Is it really that obvious?
Why, you've looked distracted since you got here.
I'm sorry, Lanyon. I hadn't realized I was being impolite.
Impolite? How long have we known each other?
I scarcely like to think.
Ever since we were at school together. You know, if there's anything I can help you with, you only have to ask.
Yes, I know.
Then what is it? Is it money you're after?
No, it's nothing like that.
Well, surely it's not a matter of the heart.
Hardly. In fact, it isn't myself I was thinking of.
Oh?
It's about Henry Jekyll, you see.
Jekyll? Well, what of him?
I imagine you and I are the oldest friends he has.
Aye, I suppose we are.
Have you seen him recently?
No, I can't say I have. The fact is, I see very little of him nowadays.
Really? I thought you shared a common interest.
In medicine, you mean?
Yes, that's right.
Aye, we had once. But it's quite some time since we conversed on such matters.
Really? It's all you used to talk about together.
Perhaps. But it's long since his ideas became too fanciful for me.
In what way exactly?
He began to go wrong, Utterson. Wrong in his thinking.
You had a disagreement of science, then?
Aye, so we did. And let me tell you, such theories would have estranged any God-fearing man.
You make it sound like a question of ethics.
In a way it was. And I still believe some of his suggestions were not only fanciful, but downright dangerous.
I see.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'll always continue to take an interest in him for old time's sake.
Did you ever come across a protégé of his by the name of Edward Hyde?
Hyde? No, I can't say I have.
Oh, that's a shame. I would have valued your opinion.
Really? And just what is he to Jekyll?
I'm not entirely sure, but I can tell you this. I mean to make it my business to find out.
You make him sound like a fox, and you're out for the hunt.
In a way I am. And if he is to be Mr. Hyde, perhaps I shall be Mr. Seek.
What have you in mind?
I shall wait, Lanyon. I shall wait morning, noon, and night outside that rickety door of his until I catch the fellow. Mr. Hyde, I believe.
Yes, that's my name.
I thought it might be.
Well, what do you want?
I'm an old friend of Dr. Jekyll's, you see.
Oh, really?
Yes, my name's Utterson. You might have heard of me.
Maybe I have, and maybe I ain't.
I thought you might let me in. I haven't seen him in a while, and...
You'll not find Dr. Jekyll in here, no, sir. He's not at home at the moment. Now, if you don't mind...
No, just wait a minute.
Well, what is it?
Before you go, would you do me a favor?
That depends, doesn't it? What exactly are you after, Mr. Utterson?
Oh, it's a simple enough request.
You better spit it out, then.
Will you let me see your face?
My face, he says. Yes, if it pleases you.
Dear God.
So tell me, Mr. Utterson, do you like what you see?
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. It may be useful to know you, should we ever meet again.
Yes. Maybe it's just as well that we've met. And now perhaps you'd return the favor.
With pleasure.
How did you come to recognize me?
By your description, of course.
And who gave you my description?
We have friends in common, you and I.
Really? I don't recall any.
You don't?
No. So just who do you mean, exactly?
Well, there's Dr. Jekyll, for instance.
Yes, but Dr. Jekyll never told you about me, did he, Mr. Utterson?
I find it hard to remember.
He never did, and that's a fact.
You seem pretty sure of yourself.
Oh, I am perfectly sure. I didn't think you would have lied, Mr. Utterson.
Come now, that's hardly fitting language for a gentleman.
But it's the truth, nevertheless. Now, if that is all...
Yes, that's all.
Then I'll ask you not to soil my doorstep with your presence again!
Dear me, what an unpleasant man. If ever I read Satan's hand upon a face, it was on Hyde's. Yes, Enfield was right, and I fear Henry Jekyll has truly chosen a poor man to become friends with. Good evening, Poole.
And good evening to you, Mr. Utterson.
I must apologize for the late hour, but I wondered if Dr. Jekyll was at home.
I'm afraid not, sir.
I see. I saw Mr. Hyde go in by the old dissecting room door.
Yes, sir.
Is that allowed when Dr. Jekyll is away from home?
Mr. Hyde has a key of his own now.
Your master seems to have put a great deal of trust in the fellow.
He does indeed, sir. All the servants have orders to obey him.
Do they now? You know, I don't think I've ever been formally introduced to this Mr. Hyde.
Oh, dear me, no, sir. He never dines here. In fact, we see very little of him on this side of the house.
Really?
He mostly comes and goes by the laboratory door.
I see. Well, I shan't detain you any longer, Poole.
Good night, Mr. Utterson. Mind how you go.
You've seen Jekyll, I take it?
No, Lanyon, I haven't. And it's not for want of trying. I've left several messages with his man Poole this week.
But to no avail?
Not yet.
Your good health.
Ah, and yours. No, it was Hyde I saw.
Ah.
It is worse than I feared, Lanyon. Far worse. This man, this creature, is more odious than I could ever have imagined.
Oh, come now. Surely you're exaggerating.
If only I were. Poor Henry. Somehow I feel he's gotten himself into deep waters.
In what way?
There were times in his youth when he was reckless.
Aye, and you only got away with those escapades because he appeared as white as the driven snow to his lecturers.
I fear this Mr. Hyde has found out about some old sin, probably long forgotten, that may damage Jekyll once more.
Then let me try and put your mind at rest. Here, I've received this.
An invitation from Henry.
Came by the evening post. I dare say you'll find the same when you return home.
Then perhaps this presents an opportunity.
What have you in mind?
I'll see if I can stay behind after the other guests have gone. If I could at least speak to him, I may help him remove this blight from his life.
My dear Utterson, do have a seat by the fire.
Thank you, Jekyll. That was a truly fine meal.
Do you think?
You know very well it was. Why, I haven't seen Elliot in more years than I care to remember.
I have some new cigars here. Try one, won't you?
Oh, this is most kind.
Nonsense. You're my oldest friend, after all. Please, allow me.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned our friendship, because that is how I consider you.
As my oldest friend.
And as such, we've always been frank with each other, haven't we?
I'd like to think so.
The fact is, I've wanted to speak with you for some time.
I know you have. I've been so busy of late, and well, you know how it is.
Busy with Mr. Hyde, I suppose?
On occasion, but come now. What did you wish to ask me?
It's about that will of yours.
Now, Utterson, do we really have to discuss this again?
If it's all the same to you, I should like to very much.
You know, there was only one other time when I saw a man so distressed as you were by my will.
Oh? And when was that?
It was old Lanyon, when he heard about what he called my scientific heresies. He was positively apoplectic about the matter. You know, he even started talking about Adam and Eve at one point. And it's not like Lanyon to speak of the Bible, is it?
You know I don't approve of it.
Of what, old man?
Henry, we were talking about your will.
Oh, Utterson, I know you don't care for it. You've told me so on many an occasion.
Then let me tell you again.
And I shall duly note your concerns. Now, perhaps we can change the subject.
I've met him, you know.
I thought we'd agreed to drop the matter.
And what I saw in Edward Hyde was abominable.
Yet I can make no change.
But Jekyll, Henry, I implore you to reconsider things, to leave your entire estate like this. Can't you see that it puts you in danger?
You don't understand. My position is a strange one. A very strange one indeed.
Henry, you know me. I am a friend on whom you can trust and depend. Why don't you tell me of this thing which hangs over you so? Then I'll do my very best to get you out of it.
My dear Utterson, it's very good of you to think of me so. Really, I cannot find words to thank you.
It's not your thanks I'm after.
And I would trust you before any man alive. Indeed, before even I trust myself.
Then tell me, exactly what has this maligner Hyde over you?
Utterson, it isn't what you fancy. Please, put your good heart at rest, I beg of you.
How can I, when this evil hangs over you?
You must believe me when I say that at any moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde.
I don't understand.
Utterson, I give you my word on the matter. He could be gone in a trice if I wished it. And since you insisted on raising the topic, I would like to ask you something.
Well, what is it?
It is wholly a private matter, and I beg of you to let it rest here tonight.
You want me to keep out, is that it?
To put it bluntly. And there's one more point I'd like you to understand. I've taken a very great interest in Mr. Hyde, and if I'm taken away, I want you to promise me that he'll get what's rightfully his.
I can't pretend I'll ever like him.
I don't ask you to like him. I only ask for justice. I only ask you to help him when I'm no longer here.
Very well. You have my word as your lawyer and as your friend.
Thank you. It is all I can ask.
Excuse me, sir.
I said, excuse me.
What do you want?
Ah, thank you for stopping, my good fellow. I was wondering if you could tell me the right direction to St. John's Wood.
Oh, St. John's Wood, is it? I know you're kind. You toffs are all the same.
And just what do you mean by that?
Coming down this part of town to get drunk, and then you do as you please. Your lot makes me sick.
I've done no such thing. I'll have you know I'm purely here on an errand of charity.
Charity? Don't make me laugh. The only charity you know is yourself.
Sir, you do me an injustice.
You're nothing but a rotten bunch of hypocrites. If I had my way, I'd see your kind dead, do you hear? Dead!
Oh, my good man, please, calm yourself.
Why should I? I don't take orders from you.
Please, I beg of you.
Well, I'll make you beg all right. Beg for mercy, so you will.
No, please, please.
You and your kind are nothing to me. Do you hear? Nothing.
Please, have mercy.
Mercy. I'd beat you some more if only I hadn't broken my stick.
What kind of devil are you?
I'm a devil of the worst kind, so I am. And don't you forget it.
Sir? Sir, are you all right? Sir, can you hear me? Dear God, he killed him, so he has. Beat him to death.
Yes, who is it?
It's the police, sir. My name is Inspector Newcomen of Scotland Yard.
Do you know what time it is, Inspector?
It's around 3 a.m, sir. Now may I come in?
Very well, if you must. Well, what is it?
A man's been murdered, sir.
And?
The fact is, he was found badly beaten, and his face, well, it's barely recognizable.
And how can I help?
There were no cards or papers on the body, but we found this.
A letter?
It's addressed to you, sir.
You want to know its contents, I suppose?
No, just the name of the man who is going to send it.
Then you'd better give it to me, Inspector. Sorry to tell you, the name is Sir Danvers Cardew.
Dear God, is that possible?
He was a client of mine, you know.
When the press finds out about this, it'll make us stink for certain.
I suppose it was one of those gangs one hears so much about nowadays?
No, it wasn't a gang that did him in, and he wasn't robbed.
Oh?
A purse and a gold watch were found upon the victim.
Then who could do such a thing? I've never met a kinder, more gentler man in my life.
Oh, we know who did it, all right.
You do?
Crime was witnessed by a maid. She says she recognized the perpetrator as a man by the name of Hyde.
Is this Mr. Hyde a person of small stature?
Particularly small and particularly wicked-looking was how she described him. We found this walking stick by the body. I should imagine it broke in half when the victim was hit.
May I take a look at that?
Do you recognize it, sir? It's quite distinct with all that carving around the handle.
I gave it to a friend of mine not more than a year ago.
This friend of yours, does he know Hyde at all?
I believe he's an acquaintance of his.
Then perhaps you can help us find him.
If you hail a cab, Inspector, I may be able to take you to his house.
Do you have his address, then?
I believe so. He was named in the will of one of my clients. Do you know this Mr. Hyde of yours is the sole heir to a fortune?
Really, sir? That does surprise me.
At the time it surprised me too, but perhaps matters will change after tonight. You know, Inspector, maybe some good will come out of this tragedy after all. Excuse me, madam, but does a gentleman by the name of Hyde live here?
And what if he does? Is he in trouble?
A great deal of trouble, I'm afraid.
Now, madam, is he in or not?
No, he left more than half an hour ago.
Perhaps we could see his rooms, then.
And just why should I let you do that? I've got my other guests to think about, you know.
I'm from Scotland Yard, madam. Now are you going to let us in, or not?
Scotland Yard, eh? Then he really is in trouble. So what's he been up to?
You'll have to find that out from the papers. May we come in, madam?
Oh, yes, of course, gentlemen. Follow me.
You seem to care little for your tenant.
I care for the rent, that's all. And if he hadn't given double what the others pay, I wouldn't have him here.
Have you seen much of Mr. Hyde lately?
I can't say I have. Before yesterday, I hadn't seen him in months.
Was that usual?
He comes and goes in spells, he does. I'll see a lot of him for a couple of days, then nothing for weeks. This one's his. Let me know when you're done.
I'll say this for him. He certainly has fine taste, does our Mr. Hyde. This cupboard's full of wine. Looks like good stuff, too. And this silver plate's none too tatty either. One would hardly expect it of him.
And certainly not in a house such as this.
Wonder how he could afford such finery. Have you found something?
Here, in the grate. Someone's been burning papers.
Let me see. Yes, they're still warm. Now, what have we here?
It looks like a checkbook.
Then we have him, Mr. Utterson. Money is life to a man, and he'll have nowhere to turn without it.
Yes, I see what you mean.
There's little more to be found here. We might as well leave.
Inspector, what's that behind the door?
The other half of the stick used to kill Sir Danvers. There can be little doubt of his guilt now.
No, I suppose there isn't. And what will you do now, Inspector?
He was a popular man, Sir Danvers, and the public will want to see action. We can start the manhunt in earnest now. Mark my words, Hyde will swing before the month is out.
Jekyll? Jekyll, are you there? Ah, good afternoon, Poole. Is Dr. Jekyll at home? I must see him with the utmost urgency.
I haven't seen him, sir, but I have heard someone in the laboratory this morning.
Do you suppose it to be Mr. Hyde?
No, sir. At least I think not. His tread is quite different from the master's.
The laboratory, can it be accessed by the alley behind the square?
Yes, I believe it can. There's a small door there.
Thank you, Poole. You've been a great help. Jekyll, it's me. May I come in?
Utterson, thank goodness.
Henry, you look like death. Are you all right?
I'll be fine. But do come in. We can't talk here in the street.
Dear God, what's that awful smell?
A unique concoction of mine. Here, let me open a window.
I hope this mixture of yours is harmless.
Harmless? Once I thought. But that's not why you've come.
No, it isn't. Have you heard about Sir Danvers?
I heard them crying it in the square.
Do you know he was my client?
No, I can't say that I did.
Jekyll, I need to know what's going on. You've not been mad enough to protect this fellow, have you?
Utterson, I swear to God. I'm quite done with Hyde.
I'm glad to hear it.
You have my word. Upon my honour and my soul, I swear I will never set eyes on him again.
What if it's not so easy as that? What if he comes knocking on your door?
I promise you, he won't.
You seem pretty sure of yourself.
You don't know him like I do. You have my word. He'll never be heard of again.
The police expect to find him soon, you know.
They won't, Utterson. Believe me, he is safe, quite safe.
And you cannot tell me, your oldest friend, how you know this?
I cannot tell a soul. You must believe me because I tell you so. Please, Utterson, isn't that enough?
It sounds like it will have to be, doesn't it?
Before you go, there's one thing you can advise me on.
Well?
I received a letter today, and I'm quite at a loss as to whether to show it to the police.
Is it from Hyde?
I'm afraid it is. I should like to leave it in your hands. You would judge wisely, I'm sure. I have great trust in you.
You fear it might lead to his detection?
I no longer care what becomes of Hyde. I was purely thinking of my own character.
And where is the letter now?
I have it here. It's very short. He thanks me for my help, that's all.
And it makes clear that you've nothing to do with any wrongdoing. It's lucky that you have this, Henry.
Yes, I can see that.
Do you have the envelope?
I burned it, but it bore no postmark. The note was handed in, you see.
May I keep this and sleep upon it?
I wish you to judge for me entirely. To be frank, I've lost all confidence in myself.
Very well. Now, before I go, I've one more question. Was it Hyde who dictated the terms in your will?
He thought it for the best.
You know the man meant to murder you, don't you, Henry? Do you realize what a lucky escape you've had?
An escape? No, Utterson, it wasn't an escape. It was a lesson. Oh, dear God, what a lesson I've had.
Then I shall take my leave of you. And Henry.
Yes?
You will try to get some rest, won't you?
I hope you don't mind me waiting for you, sir.
What is it, Poole?
Did you see the master, sir?
Yes, I saw him.
And how is he?
Not well. Not well at all. I should get the cook to prepare a hearty meal if I were you.
Yes, sir, I will.
And, Poole, before you go, was there a letter handed in today?
No, none handed in, sir.
Are you sure?
Quite certain. We had the regular post, and there was only circulars and that. I hope that's of help, sir.
Yes, Poole. It's a very great help indeed. Come in.
Ah, there you are, cousin. Are you ready, then?
Ready? Ready for what?
For our walk, of course. It is Sunday, after all.
Is it really? I've been so busy I hardly noticed.
If you'd like to cancel our appointment, you only have to say the word.
I'm afraid I'm in no mood for the busy streets of London. I do hope you'll understand.
My dear Utterson, there's no need to explain, and I shall disturb your peace no longer.
Cousin, wait. If you're minded for a quiet glass of wine by my fire, I'd welcome your company.
That, dear cousin, is an offer I won't refuse. You're drinking the Margot, I see.
I felt like I needed cheering up. Here, let me pour you a glass.
It's a sad business about Sir Danvers.
Yes, I was just thinking about it.
It's excited a great deal of public feeling, hasn't it?
Indeed it has.
This man Hyde was mad, of course.
You think so?
I only wish I'd presented him to the police when I'd first met him.
What's done is done. You know that. It does neither of us good to dwell on such matters.
Yes, you're right, of course. Perhaps we should talk of something else. What about Dr. Jekyll, for instance? Now, what has he got to say for himself?
Jekyll? What makes you ask that?
That letter on the table. I'd recognize his hand anywhere.
You do?
It's the slope, you see. That left to right is quite distinctive.
But the letter is upside down too. Now if I turn it round...
Then I must be mistaken. Funny that. Two hands being identical, only differently sloped.
Now I look at the letter, I see what you mean.
It's rather quaint, isn't it?
As you say, rather quaint.
Well, don't keep me in suspense. Who's it from?
It's signed Edward Hyde.
You don't mean the murderer, do you?
I'd much rather you didn't speak of this note, you understand. No one else must hear of it.
No, cousin, I understand entirely.
It regards a most confidential matter, you see. A matter which I hope will always remain private. Good afternoon, Poole. Is Dr. Jekyll in?
I believe so, Mr. Utterson. Won't you come in?
Shall I wait here, Poole?
There's no need, Mr. Utterson. I've instructions to show you straight up whenever you call.
You have?
If you'd like to follow me, Dr. Jekyll's in his study.
You know, Poole, it's been quite like old times these last 3 months.
Indeed it has, sir.
Ever since Hyde's disappearance, in fact.
I wasn't going to say, but his absence does seem to have improved matters.
I see from the papers they still haven't caught him. And they've increased the reward again. It now stands at a princely £10,000.
Is it really, sir? That's quite a sum, isn't it?
Come in.
Mr. Utterson to see you, sir.
Thank you, Poole. Arrange for some tea to be brought up, won't you?
Very good, sir.
My dear Utterson, what a pleasant surprise to see you.
Thank you, Jekyll. I do hope I've not called at an inconvenient time.
There's no such thing when a friend comes calling. Please, take a seat with me by the window.
I'm afraid my visit isn't entirely altruistic.
You've not come to talk of business, have you?
Oh, you're quite safe on that front, let me assure you.
Then what is it?
It's my local church, you see.
St. Martin's, you mean?
Yes. I've been speaking to the Reverend there about the roof, and their need has now become an urgent one.
My dear Utterson, not another word. I have my checkbook here in my desk here.
It's really very good of you, Jekyll. The church is very much in need of repair. I had hoped that a few donations might help the cause.
Oh, please, say no more. Here, I trust this will suffice?
But my dear Jekyll, no, I can't possibly accept this.
And why ever not?
But this is too much.
I give it because it pleases me and for no other reason.
But still...
You don't understand. The reward I have for giving is such that it feels like a selfish act.
That is nothing but nonsense, and this check is far too generous.
My dear Utterson, please take it. It does my heart good to be able to give a little back to our community.
If you insist. But I shall let it be known to one and all of this act of generosity.
You may tell who you like, just as long as I'm not expected to make a speech.
You may have my word on that.
You're free next Wednesday, aren't you?
Well, yes, I think so.
It'll be a quiet affair, so you needn't dress in your tails.
Just a small party, then.
Of my 2 oldest friends.
You don't mean Lanyon, do you?
I've learnt my lesson, Utterson. Life's too short to bear grudges. It's time we put our differences behind us and let bygones be bygones. I was only just in the nick of time, too, for the college proctor was a suspicious devil, and if he caught me, I would have been disgraced.
After all that, you still managed to come top of your year in the examinations.
As I was saying earlier, my dear Lanyon, I wasn't always the angel that is painted, and certainly not at university.
Aye, but the tutors never knew that, did they?
No, I was always careful there.
A case of what the eye doesn't see, eh?
Well, I must say, Jekyll, this has been a fine night.
Aye, it's been just like old times.
And let me make a toast, gentlemen, to my oldest and dearest friends, Gabriel Utterson and Hasty Lanyon.
Yes, here's to dear old friends.
To old friends.
I never did understand what made the pair of you fall out.
It was purely a matter of medical conjecture, nothing more.
It was an intriguing idea you had, Jekyll. I'll grant you that. But, as I always said, it was far more at home in a philosopher's textbook than any medical journal.
My dear Lanyon, if you only knew the progress I'd made.
You still hope to prove your theory, then?
I'm certain I could. But believe me, it's something I no longer wish to try.
So your experiments are at an end?
Completely and absolutely. Although I believe you to be wrong in physiological terms, there's one matter on which I shall never question you again.
Oh, indeed? And what's that?
Whether it is morally right to conduct such an investigation. And there, my dear Lanyon, I only wish I had listened more to your wisdom all those years ago.
Good morning to you, Poole.
Good day, sir.
Dr. Jekyll in? I believe he's expecting me.
He's in, sir, but he's instructed me to admit no one.
I do hope he's not been taken ill.
That I couldn't say. I only have my orders, that's all.
Orders, you say?
He left a note for me, and he was quite clear.
Very well, Poole. I shall call again tomorrow.
If I've the chance to see him, I shall let the master know.
Hello again, Poole.
Good morning, sir.
And how is Dr. Jekyll today?
There's little news, sir.
You've seen him, then?
No, sir, I've just received his notes.
Did he get the brandy I sent yesterday afternoon?
I left it for him, sir, but as to whether he drank any, I couldn't say.
I see. And you're still to admit no one?
I'm afraid my instructions remain the same.
Then I shall just have to call again tomorrow.
I'll let the master know, sir.
Morning, Poole.
Good morning, sir.
Now, Poole, this is my 5th time of calling in as many days. Have you any news of Dr. Jekyll?
No, sir, I can't say I have.
Then you still haven't seen him.
I receive his notes and nothing more.
Very well, then. Should your master see fit, do let him know that I am available to call.
Yes, of course, sir.
Lanyon, I hope you don't mind me calling unannounced like this.
You have to forgive me if I don't rise, Utterson.
What is it, Hasty? You look all done in.
You didn't lie to me. I know I look more than just tired.
Nonsense. It's this weather, that's all. Once this cold spell is over and the spring has arrived, you'll be out and about in no time.
There'll be no spring for me, I'm afraid. I've had a shock, you see. One from which I shall never recover. It'll be a matter of days, not weeks.
My dear Hasty, I'm so very sorry.
Don't be. My life's been pleasant enough. I enjoyed it very much. But no, I couldn't now. I sometimes think if we knew all, we'd be all the more glad to get away.
You know, Jekyll is ill, too. That's why I came.
Please, Utterson, I don't wish to hear that name in this house. I'm quite done with him, do you understand?
But Lanyon...
No buts. The man is as good as dead to me.
Can't I do anything? We used to be such good friends, the three of us.
No. There's nothing to be done. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask him yourself?
There, I cannot.
Oh? And why's that?
He refuses to see me.
I'm not surprised at that. Someday, Utterson, after I'm gone, you may learn the rights and wrongs of all of this. I cannot tell you myself. In the meantime, if you can sit and talk with me of other things, for God's sake, stay and do so. But if you cannot keep clear of that accursed topic, then, in God's name, go, for I can bear it no longer.
Dear Henry, I've just come from Lanyon's. He is of the most terrible countenance, and fears he has but a matter of days to live. What is more, he speaks of you in the blackest of terms. I do not know what has come between you since that so fine a night we shared together, but I firmly believe that it is at times like these that old friends must stand by each other. I beg of you, let me see you so I can help you put this matter right. Yours sincerely, Gabriel Utterson.
My dear Utterson, do not blame our old friend for speaking ill of me, for I share his view that we must never meet again. From now on, I mean to lead a life of seclusion. You must therefore not be surprised if my door is often shut to you. You must let me to go in my own dark way. I've brought on myself a punishment and a danger that I cannot name. If I am the chief of sinners, I have the chief of punishments also. I have not thought that this earth contained a place for suffering and terror. Alas, you can do for me but one thing, friend Utterson, and that is to respect my silence and never doubt my greatest of friendship toward you, Dr. Henry Jekyll.
Unto Almighty God, we commend the soul of our brother departed, and we commit his body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, in sure and certain hope of the resurrection unto eternal life through our Lord Jesus Christ, at whose coming in glorious majesty to judge the world, the earth and the sea shall give up their dead, and the corruptible bodies of those who sleep in him shall be changed, and made like unto his own glorious body.
Amen.
Enfield, you made it then.
I stood at the back. It was a peaceful service.
It's what he would have wanted. Lanyon wasn't a man for fuss and ceremony. But still, I had hoped that all of his oldest friends would have been here.
And by that you mean Dr. Jekyll?
I did so want the opportunity to see him again.
How long has it been?
A number of weeks now.
Forgive me, cousin, but you do feel all right, don't you?
What do you mean by that?
It's just you keep on holding your chest so. It's not causing you difficulty, is it?
It's nothing of the physical kind. It's the weight, I fear, of a promise left undone.
I don't follow.
Here, in my breast pocket. A letter from Lanyon himself.
What does it say?
As of yet, it remains unopened. Here, see for yourself.
Private. For the hands of G.J. Utterson alone. In case of his death, it is to be destroyed unread.
I'm afraid it relates to Jekyll.
Do you plan to read it?
I must. It was Lanyon's dying wish that I should have it, and yet...
Yes?
I have buried one friend today. What if this letter should cost me another?
Then leave it until tomorrow, when your mind is more at peace.
No, I'd rather open it with someone present. Someone I can trust.
Then let it be over and done with.
Very well. Oh, well, this is unusual. There's a second envelope here. It's marked, "Not to be opened till the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll."
You seem even more troubled, cousin.
It's that word disappearance again. Why should Lanyon think Jekyll might disappear?
This is the end of disc number 1. Please insert disc number 2.